Okay, so thank you very much to everyone for joining today's webinar. I think we're going to get started now. We might have some more people join the next few minutes, but yeah, we'll get going for now. My name's Anna. I'm part of the inquiries team here at the Oxford Professional Education Group, and today is the second webinar of our Procurement on Demand series, hosted by Roman today. Roman has worked with companies like Toyota and M&S as a business process improvement and transformation expert. He's also a Kaizen enthusiast and practitioner. So if anyone's qualified to give today's talk, it's Roman. So I'll hand over to you now, and yeah, we can get started.
Great, my pleasure to be here. As Anna's mentioned, I'll be talking Kaizen today. I'll introduce myself. And then we're going to deep dive into the Kaizen concept as well. We'll try to define what Kaizen is. Why would you want to implement Kaizen into your business, or any other business that you're looking at? And then we're gonna go through the little case study as an example of how you could take those first steps to implementing Kaizen, with a particular focus on the process mapping exercise. So my name's Roman. I did master's degree at Cranfield. I did logistics and supply chain management at Cranfield. Before that, I did bachelor's at Brighton Business School. This is my email address as well. If you would want to contact me one day, feel free to. And then I'm also on LinkedIn with my name and surname. You can easily find me and connect with me as well. Also, if you want to share any feedback on today's session, that would be great as well. So those are the key companies I work with. So I'm employed currently with Marks and Spencer's as a transformation project manager. I work with Coty, Danone and Toyota. Below you'll see some of the brands that I directly work with as well when being with those companies. So Lexus, Toyota, Evian, Volvic, those are big drinking water brands. Also Rimmel, Weller, OPI as a cosmetics brands that go under Coty. So my aim today is to share my knowledge and experience what Kaizen is, show how Kaizen works and the best way to implement. As I've mentioned, I gave you a little hint already that I'll be focusing on the business process mapping in particular, as I believe this is one of the key kind of techniques and first steps that you should take when considering adopting Kaizen. And I'm going to explain where to start, as I've mentioned, and what could be the best method for that. Let's go for a little case study towards the end of the session as well. I would also want to ask you to relate to your existing startup, if you have one, or any other business of your choice, and then continue working with the information you'll receive today and put it all into practice as soon as possible while it's all fresh. So definition. What Kaizen is. You might have heard of Kaizen. That is, it is a Japanese business philosophy. And it comes from early days from Japan with all the manufacturing. So those are different principles, particularly focusing on internal culture, employees, and how you manage your people to try and encourage them to kind of adopt that continuous improvement methodologies. To ensure that day in, day out, people are looking at the ways to improve your business and the processes within, the processes that they deal with day to day as well, to make their life easier as well. And as part of that philosophy, it's also very important to have that action plan. So specific kind of methods, concepts, techniques that you use in order to almost comply with that entire philosophy. And process mapping is one of those. So Nestle, Ford, Nike, Disney, as well as Toyota, successfully adopted Kaizen and used Kaizen techniques as an example, and particularly focusing on process mapping, value stream mapping. Nestle being one of the examples where they've process mapped their new bottling plant in 2006, I think. And then Nike, you may know that Nike were facing a very difficult situation in the early 2000s with their sustainability, child labor issues, and that whole perception of Nike transformed. And that happened due to Kaizen and lean methodologies that Nike were able to adopt, particularly with the transparency that we're able to gain that respect back in place. And that transparency was because they did a lot of process mapping exercises, as well as if you actually go online and you search for, I think, Nike factory map. So it gives you an entire map of every single location where the company has the manufacturing facility, for example, or distribution facility. So you can, in real life, engage, quite an engaging map. You can see where those facilities are located, and it's all very visual. And this is one of the Kaizen in particular assumes a lot of visual techniques that you're gonna work visually, you're gonna brainstorm, you're gonna process map and make it all visual to your employees, stakeholders, to add transparency as a key component of Kaizen. So one of the big questions that I'm asked normally on Kaizen is, okay, Roman, for example, Kaizen has come all the way from manufacturing, particularly automotive manufacturing. As you may see on this picture, for example, the automotive manufacturing is very sequential. So, it can be streamlined quite easily, not easily, but these days it's already streamlined with automation, with all the technologies. But what about maybe service industries, where you do not have a complete standardized process? It's all about services that you deliver to your customer. And what about smaller and mid-sized organizations? Okay, larger organizations do have resources to be able to invest in those, automated plants, and make sure that the processes are really smooth, and that a lot of waste is removed from the process. So it's all very, very lean. But what about small organizations? And I do say that it's also possible to apply Kaizen. I call it contemporary Kaizen to smaller and mid-sized organizations. And there are huge, massive benefits of Kaizen that you would not maybe expect. So it significantly strengthens your business longer term, gives you that sustainability and resilience as well. Requires very limited investment, which is good. And that's one of the reasons why you can start applying Kaizen to your startup or small, mid-sized organization that does not have that much of a resource to invest at the moment, and does not require major changes. That's one of the key also benefits of Kaizen, because it does not require, as innovation, for example, requires a lot of time to be invested in that, a lot of money invested in that. But Kaizen, particularly through those little incremental improvements, can deliver huge benefits over longer term horizon. So what Kaizen exactly is? Does it focus on delivering innovation? No. Chasing new clients or pushing on your team to do more? It's not just about gaining, higher revenue shorter term, or making sure that you conquer more business, you win market share or anything like that. It's about strengthening your business internally and making sure that you become more competitive, longer term, and sustainable. First of all, it's transformation of the mindset, as it's the whole kind of culture of Kaizen. You need to make sure before you actually implement anything, or you focus on any particular kind of hard improvements within the organization, you need to make sure that people are prepared for that. People is one of the key things within Kaizen and Lean methodologies. You need to make sure that people are motivated, people kind of starve almost for that continuous improvement approach, that they're genuinely interested in improving your business day in, day out. And it's not something that is pushed on them. They do not feel like it's an extra responsibility, extra time they need to be spending on that without any kind of like potential benefit. Yeah. Hard work on its own will not lead to great results. This is a little pyramid, almost like a Maslow's hierarchy, where I do say, particularly with startups, there is a period with every business where you just need to push and establish those processes, where Kaizen is more about the time period where your processes are already established, and then you start looking at opportunities, how you can improve. You may argue with me that, yes, you can start using Kaizen at the very beginning of your business journey. But I would say that, yes, Kaizen is more about, you need to have dedicated people who'll be reviewing processes. You need to have that little bit of extra time on understanding how you can improve existing processes, identify those bottlenecks. But also, the only way of knowing that you have a bottleneck is through having the process, making sure that that process did run for a couple of years to really see what's working well, what's not. It's only then when you can kind of strive to do the right thing, but also doing that thing well, yeah, instead of just pushing and doing things. This is a little video I would want to show you by Steve Jobs on continuous improvements.
Sorry, Roman, the video is a little quiet at the moment.
Okay, you can't hear the video.
We can hear it, but it's a little muffled.
Okay, maybe. Okay, let me try.
I don't know if you can turn the sound up.
I'll start from. Just tell me how it is now. Is it any better now?
I think we're probably getting some of the like vibrations from your laptop, so it's a little hard to hear.
Okay, maybe you can share the deck with the audience after, and then feel free to watch it. What I can say that Steve Jobs here, focusing on I'm trying to explain that the most important with Kaizen is to make sure that people start questioning existing processes, that people are not afraid of doing that, challenging, questioning. This is the absolute key. It's only then you can successfully adopt Kaizen and make sure that you really sustain that culture internally, with people being proactive in terms of like challenging and saying, okay, why are we doing this that way? Why we can't do it another way? Collaborate internally. What's your opinion? What's your opinion? And then putting it all together into an action plan and then delivering that transformation longer term. Okay, I'll move on to the next slide. So why do we need it? Why do we need Kaizen? Yeah, this is a little just slide up just for a little laugh here. You can do business in different ways. There are always massive opportunities to improve. What you see here, maybe it's not the safest way, or like transporting goods, doing construction. So there are always opportunities, even though at some point you may realize within the business that, okay, we almost nailed it. The process is almost ideal. We just can't see how it can be improved anymore. But always there are opportunities, and this is very important. Again, going back to the process map exercise, you need to put it down on paper, make it all visual, and it's only then where you can start identifying things that you would not even imagine if you would not put it on paper. Yeah. Some of the things may be like you've got that feeling that delivery of your product or service is taking somehow longer than it should. Yeah. Same issues repeatedly occur, one after another. Clients may often leave back feedback or keep returning items for some reasons. Yeah, you need to really identify why, what can be improved, how. And everyone seems to work hard. This is one of the most frequent. Yeah, everyone is working hard, but quality of what's being produced still is not great as an end product. That means that along the supply chain, you need to deep dive in every single process, understand what's adding value directly to your end product, what's not adding as much value, what can be removed, what can be kept. And this is the absolute kind of key. Shingo is the key engineer at Toyota, used to be Toyota production system. And he's saying that we must always keep in mind that the greatest waste is the waste we do not see. Yeah. So there is a lot of that waste that we do not see. Hence, we need to map it out and try and identify what can be defined as waste. Can we potentially remove it? And it's always anecdotally, a lot of the time, people look at the process and they say, okay, are you really kind of like, they believe that part of the process really has to happen. It has to be within that process. And when you challenge that and even remove that part of the process and nothing changes, they get very surprised of, how it's even possible, for that process to exist without that part of the process. And the reason is that part of the process was not adding value, and it was a complete waste in reality. Yeah. So do not wait until major catastrophes. Do try and identify and eliminate the root causes now before anything major happens. Because it's like with any kind of like disease or any problem, you leave it longer, it just grows and then it explodes at some point. Yeah, that's why it's also very important to have that Kaizen in place, a continuous improvement, and the structure for that continuous improvement. Again, process mapping. Once you have that process map in place, you can continue working with that process map day in, day out, see what can be improved. And then with those incremental changes longer term, you will see that your business just becomes so much stronger, and you eliminate those bottlenecks that otherwise would have led you to catastrophe. Yeah. So this is about significant results, longer term, by changing and doing little things that require little to almost no effort, if you think of it, day in, day out. So for example, like going to the gym, yeah, you're not going to see any change after the first day being in the gym or the second day being in the gym. You do those little things, you know, spend an hour, 2 hours in the gym, but then longer term, if you remain consistent and you do that for years, then you become in good shape. You get that good shape, and then the results are there. Yeah, longer term. One of the other key benefits, I wouldn't say key benefits, significant benefits, but what I'm also saying here, that these should not be your primary motives when implementing Kaizen. But in my view, Kaizen can significantly strengthen your business, give you that resilience, and that demonstrates to outer parties, like third parties, your suppliers, your clients, if they know that you do Kaizen, you use Kaizen methodologies, you use Kaizen techniques, they start trusting you. They know that your business is the business that's going to remain and be there longer term. So it gives you that competitiveness as well on the market, yeah, which is also very important. So how to implement? In my personal view, there is only one and only solution, yeah, to that, particularly as a starting point. So capturing current as is business process, which I call business process mapping, and then continuous work with the process map. So you establish that process map, you capture your current process. Ideally, you start brainstorming and talking to people internally, and mapping like new process, where you're going to aim to end up, how it's going to change, but capturing that process in the first place is the key. It has to be top-down initiative. There is a little video as well on the second slide by Masaki Mai. He's one of the, he's not a founder of Kaizen, but he was the one who transferred Kaizen knowledge from Toyota production system back from Japan to the Western world and America in the first place, and then Europe. That's when the European and American companies started using Kaizen techniques as well. So he's saying in this video that top management is the absolute key, and top management has to be involved when approaching Kaizen improvement projects. It has to come top down, yeah? It has to be initiated by top management. Particularly on business process map. So this is one of the other key engineers at Toyota, Toyota production manager. He was Teiichi Ono in 1988, and that's what he said. The first action to take on the road to improvement of any complex service operation is to create a macro value stream map of the entire system, meaning you need to map out that process, whether it's the manufacturing process, whether that's the warehouse operations process, or the entire process map, like a top level. If you think of it, you can map out different parts of the process in more detail, having a more detailed version for the factory, for the warehouse, for anything else. But then you can have a top level map that kind of groups everything together and looks at interconnection between different parties, different facilities within the business. And most important, we need to focus on communication flow. So interlinks between the different activities in the process. Penny Weller, she's ex-performance manager at Pfizer. And what did she say? She said that over 90% of the process improvements is done via process mapping. There is also a little video, a TED talk by her, starting at the 5th minute. But yeah, you watch it in your spare time. Very, very good talk. Maybe watch it in full as well. It's a very, very kind of eye-opening presentation. So I'll go to the next slide now. Conscious we've got quite a few slides to go through. So yes, so where do we start? If we were to start implementing Kaizen today, as I've mentioned multiple times, I would start mapping out business process. Yeah. We'll look at the case study right now that I've designed for the purpose of understanding how to approach process mapping in particular. I would suggest approaching the exercise as you were the owner of that business. Yeah. It relates to corporate strategy. That's also one of the reasons why process mapping is a value add, particularly for top management. As soon as you start going through that process, it may lead you to realizing, okay, am I heading in the right direction overall with my business or not? Yeah. And the absolute key, it gives structure to your business and its processes. So this is the case study that I've designed. Wedding dress tailor. Imagine we've got a little boutique on the high street that designs and produces wedding dresses. Yeah. Why I've come up with this example? One of the reasons I wanted to combine a service organization with production kind of organization, manufacturing organization, because that involves both here. As a bespoke tailor, we serve our customers. We've got customer service element within the boutique, but also we produce those wedding dresses, i.e. have some production as well. So I'll go into the Excel map. Very generic, but I'll explain. And that's all based on my experience. That's how I approach every single transformational exercise on a strategic level. I tend to map out the entire process, and that's how I do it using swim lane diagram like this. So I've got the stakeholders to the left, all the key parties that are involved in end-to-end process, and then I've got an estimate kind of timeline up the top. So what I'm saying here, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. It can be hours, it can be days, it can be minutes, depending on what process you're looking at. Yeah. Who we've got here? So we've got customers, always. We've got call center in our case. We've got sales personnel at the boutique, people who are trained and based in a boutique who meet and greet customers. We've got designers, tailors, people who are actually going to produce, manufacture our products. We've got third-party supplier who supplies all the textiles and all the components. And then we've got external storage, DC operation, as in most businesses would have a warehouse. So let's look at how I tend to map the process. So we've got a starting point, and then it leads us to the first activity. So we get a customer query. Customer gives a bell to the call center, says, okay, I'm after a wedding dress. Yeah. Then the call center answers the phone call, for example, and determines customer requirements. And then they arrange an appointment with the customer over the phone. People at the company say, okay, on Tuesday next week, our people will be waiting you at the boutique at that address. Do come at that time. Yeah, so we've got confirmed appointment. So customer has a confirmation with a date and time on when to come to that boutique. And the customer comes into store, so visiting that boutique. Then sales personnel take all the measurements, and then customers try samples on. So some of the dresses potentially are available in store already, and that's where we have a decision point here, asking a question. So are preferred samples in stock or not? So yes or no. That's where your process, depending on an answer, your process may differ. Yeah. If what customers preferred and liked was in store, then it's yes. And then that item is picked by the customer. Say potentially it's just reserved on that date, and then customer makes a payment. Payment has been processed, and then after that, production starts. Yeah. If, for example, preferred dress in that particular color, in that particular shape, in that particular size, wasn't available in a boutique to try on, then we've got no, and then we go onto here where we've got external storage, and then we've got another activity, delivering required samples from the DC. So we tell our customer, okay, we do not have those wedding dresses that you've selected or wanted to try on in store today, but we're going to order those from our storage facility. So please come back later in a day's or 2 days time, as an example. Yeah. So we're ordering that, we're opening that, replenishing that once those dresses arrive. So that's another activity for the boutique to perform. Customer called for a repeating appointment. Then we call our customer and say, okay, Mr. Customer, dresses of your preference arrived at the boutique now, so please come again. So appointment is confirmed, and then again, back to square one. Customer comes into boutique, tries those samples again. If customer like those dresses, then they place an order and buy that dress or make a payment, and then we start producing the actual dress based on those samples, bespoke dress for that customer. But what the point I wanted to make, that's how you identify non-value adding activities, or activities that potentially may delay your entire process significantly. So in that case, we didn't have required dresses in store, so that's why it's red. So we've got that additional process, quite a lengthy process in place that delayed the entire activity. Imagine, the difference between having those dresses in and not having that stock in, results in 1 or 2 or 3 days delay, yeah, which impacts customer satisfaction rate and other things. So I'm not going to go into all the detail, just briefly going to mention, once we start producing, for example, dress, yeah, we contact our supplier, we ask them, okay, we need this and that textile, those particular components, and supplier may come back to us and say, okay, we do not have that in stock, so we need to order from our suppliers. Okay, that further delays the process if the answer is no. Yeah, if the answer is yes, so suppliers had that component in place, everything's, the textile in that particular color is in place, then there is a process, different activities for third-party supplier of picking the right textiles, packing those, sending textiles off, sending those to our tailor and people who manufacture the dress. Then they have to unpack that as a separate activity. Then they do quality check. Sometimes, say, for example, you may receive textiles from your supplier and these are not in a good shape, so with some defects, for example. So what happens then, if you receive those textiles with a defect, then the answer is no, hasn't passed the quality check. So what happens then? Then you contact your supplier, you say, okay, I can't produce wedding dress with that sort of material in that quality. Then what they do then, they pick and pack another alternative textile, replacing that order. They're picking, packing it, sending it off again. So again, delays the entire process by 1, 2, 3 days. Yeah. And you will realize once you've mapped the process like this end to end, you'll have numerous opportunities to improve and streamline the process. Yeah. What I've done here, just to give you a flavor, what I would always do, I would map out the pain points. That's the process. You've got your pain points, then you identify your root cause. So what's causing that pain? Yeah. Then what impact those root causes and pains cause on your business? What impacts these have? Yeah. And then countermeasures. At Toyota, we always used to call those countermeasures. These are solutions. How are you going to go about it? What are you going to do? Some of the examples, let's run through this just so you understand the logic. I'll need to connect my laptop later. So number one, sales personnel is not informed of the upcoming appointments. For example, when we've gone through the process with you, when the customer was calling our call center, they've been dealing with a call center, but at the time, call center did not pay enough attention onto finding out what customers actually need and want. Imagine at that time, when the initial appointment was arranged, all the needs and requirements were taken from the consumer. Say, for example, consumer comes in, makes a call, and then they know at this point that customer wants a yellow dress in that shape, in that size. Then what we could do, potentially, going back to that map, to avoid the out of stocks when the customer comes into the boutique, we could already maybe call our storage room and say, we've got a customer coming in on Tuesday next week. Please ensure that boutique have that particular shape of the dress in that particular color in place. So when customer comes in on Tuesday, the likelihood of us having that dress in stock is much higher. So we've squeezed in more activities while waiting for the customer, which is one of the solutions. And you can work with that process map like this. Number two, for example, often required samples are stored externally. That's one of the other things. So root cause, customers' needs aren't identified during the initial interaction. Also, you may ask yourself, do I really need that external facility? Or potentially I could squeeze in more dresses into my smaller boutique. Maybe a solution. I'm not saying it's the right solution. Yeah. We just may not have enough space, but potentially. Yeah. Or maybe we could extend our boutique, rent out a larger kind of space within the boutique, having a storage room within the boutique, so we do not need to kind of deliver anything from external facility, which would save us a lot of time. I would really appreciate, so if I just leave you for a second with that map like this, I need to connect my laptop, put your thoughts together, and then I'm going to come back now, and then I'll appreciate a couple of questions on that. Yeah, 2-3 questions, just so you understand that you know how to use the map now.
Hi everyone, you should be able to put your questions in the chat and then we can just answer them from there if you do have any.
Perfect.
Keep an eye on the chat.
Let's have a look.
Hopefully we've got one.
Entering the chat now. Okay, video. Yes, you can watch the video in your spare time. Also, after watching the video, after going through the deck in your spare time as well, you're free to email me or approach me via LinkedIn with any further questions. Where is the best place to create a map? Paper, computer? Okay, very good question. And I've got my own preferred way. I can share with you what I normally do. First thing, pen and paper, or pencil and paper in my case. So I would draw it by hand. I would have maybe 2-3 iterations. One of the benefits of having it drawn by hand in the first place is normally, because how it works normally, you're going to draw something simple in the first place, then you're going to take it with you around the business, you're going to talk to different stakeholders, and then you need to amend a lot of that based on how people see it. You're going to hold different workshops. We call them Kaizen workshops, where you bring a lot of people from different departments in the room. You start from putting like sticky notes on the wall to connect different activities so people agree on that process. Again, then you're going to take notes and try and draw all of that, connect it all together. So pen and paper as an answer. As a final version, I normally use Visio, Microsoft Visio. That's in my case, or you can even use Excel, like on here, like on the screen. So Visio, but I'm aware that these days there are plenty of different solutions in terms of like they're different softwares, even better than Visio, but Visio serves quite well normally for the final product. And it's also very, very important that once the map is built, you either print it out or you know what? This is the map I can share with you that I've built at my time with Toyota. This is the map, if you can see that. That's built in Visio with 145 different processes on that map. The process that I was exploring was a new model launch process. So how long does it take for a new vehicle to be built and delivered to GB market? So hopefully that answers your question. If we don't have any more questions, I'll just finalize on that.
We do actually have another one, Roman.
Okay,
we've got one
perfect.
asking whether it's possible to implement Kaizen in other industries such as hotel business.
Absolutely. That's what I've covered earlier. And that's where I was, let's go back to that slide even, where I've covered this, saying, could Kaizen work in a small and mid-sized organization? The good news is that organizations of any size and at any level of process planning sophistication can benefit from value stream mapping. Any organization. So Kaizen can be implemented, lean approaches, and I call it contemporary Kaizen. Contemporary meaning that it's all in that modern environment with different industries. It can be banking, it can be hotel. Particularly hotel is very interesting because in the hotel industry, you're going to have, it's a service industry, but you're going to have different processes. As I imagine it, you're going to have a hotel, a boutique hotel, or you're going to have different hotels. How the communication flow is, how those different points, i.e. hotel locations, how these interact with each other. You're going to have third parties who deliver beverages, foods and drinks, when suppliers deliver that, then customer interaction as well, when the payment gets processed, when and how. So a lot of different processes with any organization.
I don't think we have any more questions at this point.
Okay.
Obviously, if anyone does have any other questions, you can put that in the chat or the Q&A.
Absolutely. It would be great, Anna, if you could maybe share this Excel as well. I'm more than happy to share this with people. This Excel, so you can maybe even use it as a template. You know, you can. It may help you applying this to any organization of your choice. You've got a little table here with a structure of how to approach bottlenecks to get more structure. So Kaizen, there is a PDSA cycle, plan to do, check, act, 5 whys, Kanban. Those are other principles of Kaizen, different techniques. You can read about those in quite a lot of books online. I'm not going to deep dive into those methodologies. I wanted to focus today on process mapping because I'm very passionate about process mapping, and through my experience with all these organizations, I've learned how important the process mapping is and the benefits that process mapping can deliver. A lot of people underestimating process mapping. Particularly, I know a lot of people who are not maybe very visual people, and they think like putting this on paper or making it visual isn't going to add that much of a value, but it always does, disregarding, you know, whether you're visual, you're not visual. In any case, you're going to have people within your organizations who are visual, and most people, for most people, it's very helpful to see things on paper or on the wall or on a laptop in a visual way. One of the final things I wanted to mention, and again, one of the key benefits of process mapping is that it leads you, in the end, to much more standardized processes. So once you've got your process map, and then you trial test the processes multiple times, it leads you to a more standardized process. You exactly know how long does it take for each and every process to get performed. You can, once you start removing that waste, those non-value adding activities, your process is much more standardized and much more predictable, which always helps with any organization. If there aren't any more questions, I'll give you a couple of minutes now. I see something in the chat still. Some feedback here.
Yeah.
At the end of the webinar, that will be great. Okay. Yes, we're going to share the Excel as well. You can use it as a template, but also I've mentioned Visio. If you do not have Visio, you can download Visio. I think Visio is a standard software that comes with your Microsoft package. Great. Thanks all for your time. Hopefully it was helpful, and do remember that all of this was based on my experience. It's not, you know, the purpose of this was to make it as value adding as possible, because I've gone through a lot of this, and I just wanted to share my experience and make sure that you take the most relevant and most value adding bits from this.
Brilliant. Thank you very, very much, Roman, for giving the talk today. I don't have any procurement experience myself, but it's really interesting to learn about Kaizen and the background and how it can be implemented. So yes, like we said, we'll send out the recording, the slide deck, and the spreadsheet to you.
And the videos, do watch the videos. These really will add a lot of flavor to this PowerPoint, and then go through the deck again. It's a shame you couldn't hear the videos, but yeah, those quite a good material in there. We'll
send that out to you in the next few days. And if you do have any further questions and want to get in touch, you can just reply to that email, or you can find our inquiries email address in the chat there as well. If anyone is interested in learning more about procurement and supply, you might be interested in the SIPS courses that we offer. That's the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply. They're internationally recognized courses that help solidify and expand your knowledge of the field. So they look great on your CV. They really help you stand out from the crowd. And I've put the link to our webpage there in the chat as well, if you are interested. So I think that's everything for today. Thank you all for joining, and thank you again, Roman, for giving that talk. That was really, really great.
Thanks all. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, and hopefully hear from you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.